if the money stops, what will happen to my family? The financial results you get today, whether it's your wage or your business or whatever, it's in direct proportion with the level of awareness you have about earning money. Most people focus on spending less, not earning smarter. So I don't need to be exchanging my time for money. Just like working for a company, you need to go to work, clock in, do your work, and then you get paid at the end of the month. That's exchanging time for money. So when I worked for corporate, I did earn decent money, but I was always stressed, worn out, tired, overwhelmed, simply because of the nature of the work, right? And I had no system, I had no proven method to pretty much generate earnings from anywhere else. So that's why I found myself on this trap of being successful, if you like, by most people's standards, including my own at the time, because I was working for large companies, earning decent money. I had what I called a good career because of, upbringing, belief systems, how a good life was meant to be. And I was guessing, I was just reacting all the time. I was trying to figure out a way to get out of that trap, but I couldn't. And I was just hoping that the next pay rise, the next promotion will solve my problems, right? And guess what? It never did. And I don't think it ever will for anybody who works for somebody else, or perhaps it's in a very similar situation than I was. But one day I sat down and I asked myself this question, and that is an interesting question, was if the money stops, what will happen to my family within a matter of months? And that question literally changed everything in me at the time. Because the lifestyle, like most people earning okay money, the lifestyle goes in line with that. And when you work for somebody else, very few people will actually have investments on the side to sustain their families and themselves in case they lose the paycheck, right? But that question changed everything pretty much for me at the time. And then I stopped chasing paychecks and promotions and everything else, and started figuring out ways to build a system or systems or proven methods that will literally help me replace that income for cash flow, or perhaps for freedom, whereby I didn't rely on a paycheck if I didn't want to, and I wouldn't rely on a promotion for the life to get better, and even more so, I wouldn't be relying on hope to start having more control of my finances. And these are the steps that did help me, and I'm very glad and in a way very proudly I now teach other fathers to do the same thing. Fathers that were just like me, living for a paycheck, working for corporations and things like that. And I'm very, very proud to be helping other fathers to achieve the same kind of freedom that I did. And simply by sharing them the step by steps on how they too can make that transition, or perhaps if they are already into that transition, how they can make it better, more enjoyably, and achieve more control of their lives and their finances, if you like. But one thing I want to share with you today on this video here is not just my experience, as you have heard in this video and maybe another video of mine, whether it's on a channel, on the podcast, on Daddy Boss and everything else. But what I want to share with you today here is this, just to perhaps open your mind a little bit and help you raise your level of awareness, because our results in life is in direct proportion to our level of awareness about that specific area. I'll give an example. The financial results you get today, whether it's your wage or your business or whatever, it's in direct proportion with the level of awareness you have about earning money, or attracting money, or creating money, not making money, because money is actually illegal to make. So that's what I mean about your level of awareness. And this video today is all about levels of awareness, right? Just mine, when I was working for corporations, I was not aware of a different way of living life, of doing things in the way that I want to do. I was not aware. I was seeking for something, but I was not aware of what it was, and how to do it. And that's what most people end up being stuck without living a nice place, in a nice home, or having the holidays they want, or having the health and relationships that they want to have, and even the relationships with themselves, the inner self, right? Which is the best type of relationships we need to make sure we have. But most people manage money backwards, and I will explain that. Most people focus on spending less, not earning smarter, right? For example, if somebody earns a certain amount, you probably know people, even yourself, I'm not sure, they're very good with budgeting, and you have all these Excel files, spreadsheets, and you know exactly how many pounds or dollars or whatever euros go out of your account every day. You buy a coffee, you have a ping on your phone, notification, the money's going here and there. They're all very good with that. But the problem there is this: you're just controlling the little that is there, right? And most people manage money backwards because that's what they focus on. They focus on spending less, not earning smarter. And that's like trying to patch a leak instead of building a new pipeline, right? It's kind of like retracting instead of advancing. And it's a massive difference with that, because if you are like me, or very similar to my upbringing, or sorry, if you are from an upbringing similar to mine, the teachings there, the belief there was this: oh, you just need to save, cut costs, save, cut costs, save, instead of just going, how can I create value to the world? How can I create value to my society? How can I create value to my group of people? How can I create more value to the world, to the marketplace, so therefore my results will change? I'm going to grow as a person, I'm going to expand, and therefore my financial results are also going to change, right? I didn't have that. And the whole belief system was retracting, which is saving, cut costs, do all these things instead of creating smart ways of generating smart income. And my definition of working smarter, it's probably very different to the definition that you have learned. My definition of working smarter is to generate sources of income which does not require my exchange of time for that income to come. Does that make sense? So that's my definition of working smarter, is generating sources of income, multiple sources of income. In my case, they are rental properties, they're rental houses, rental buildings, multiples. So I don't need to be exchanging my time for money. Just like working for a company, you need to go to work, clock in, do your work, and then you get paid at the end of the month. That's exchanging time for money. My definition of working smarter is creating multiple sources of income where you don't exchange your time for money, but the income comes without you having to do that, right? So I'll give some steps today here, and these are perhaps the steps that I have applied myself because I know them, I have lived and experienced it, and I'm going to be sharing with you to give you 5 steps on how you can start raising your level of awareness, because it's all about awareness, about money, freedom, and good health and relationships, and so on and so forth. So step number 1, get clear on what you really want, okay? Life is not designed by what you can have, but it's designed by what you truly want, because that's the only prerequisite you need to achieve what you want, right? And believe me, that's the case. If you truly want something, if you are emotionally involved with that idea, that's the only prerequisite you need. I'm an example of that. That's the only prerequisite. You don't need anything else other than really want it. And then things will start coming together. Now, this is your what, right? Get really clear on what you really want. That's your what, okay? Now, financial control, it starts with clarity. And that's what most people don't actually have. But a good thing to do that, just like I did myself many years ago, is ask yourself, what kind of life do I want to build for myself and my family? Forget about current circumstances. Forget about past experiences. Forget about your upbringing. Forget about what he did didn't work, what she did and didn't work, what they did and didn't work, what they suggested, whatever here and there and everywhere. Forget about all that. Ask yourself, what kind of life do I really want to build for myself and my family? What you want. We're now talking about wants. We're not talking about needs here, right? Needs are boring. Needs are boring. Wants are exciting, okay? So keep that in mind. And then the second question to ask is this: how much do I need each month to be able to have that life that I want? Don't do guesswork. Some people go and say, I need 10, 50, 100,000, I need a million, I need whatever. Don't do guesswork. Remember, you just need to start from a place where you can start moving towards it. And financial independence does not require you to become a millionaire to be financially independent. You just need to have a plan to start to stop exchange your time for money and still have sources of income to sustain your family and yourself into a new journey, right? But always ask yourself, what kind of life do I want to live? I want to have for myself and my family. How much do I need each month? Come up with that figure. Don't do guesswork. Put it in a piece of paper. If you don't know exactly, do the best of your abilities, right? So if you don't know how much private jets will cost, just go online. Do a search on that if private jets is your thing. If you want to travel on first class flights, just check how much those things cost. If you want to stay in a certain hotel, if you want to live in a certain house, if you want to travel in a certain way, if you want to have a certain kind of membership, club memberships or something, if you want to do a certain sport or whatever, just put those numbers together. Have clarity on that. That's a really, really good thing. So that becomes your money goal. Now, if your goal is to move from, let's say, if you are today on, I don't know, 5,000 to go to 5 million a month, well, that step might be a bit too big, right? But set the goal there, even if the 5 million is your goal, but then we start working out step by steps to move towards that. So step number 2, track where it's going, right? You can't fix what you don't measure. So if you don't know where your money is going, i.e. through the really tight budgeting that most people have, it's quite hard to measure it. Now, see where your money goes, especially what's not bringing value or cash back. Okay? It's a mindset shift. When you go from employee to entrepreneur, there's a massive mindset shift that needs to take place. It's not about the money, about the business, about shifting work for something else. There's a lot of people that set up their own businesses, they become slave of their own craft, right? You don't want that. You want something that's going to make you grow, you're going to expand. So track where it's going. Now, especially expenses or outgoings, they are not bringing returns. Now, if there are some expenses or outgoings that you put in money somewhere and it's bringing you financial returns or perhaps buying you time, then it's okay, right? But measure those things. So keep a really, really close eye on that. Step number 3, build income that does not rely on you exchange your time for it, right? That's where most fathers get stuck, including myself back in the days, because my upbringing was I need to work harder, I need to work longer, I need to work more for more money. But in reality, I just got worn out, pay more taxes because the more you work for somebody else, if you are in a country where you pay tax, like the United Kingdom, the United States, European countries, and most countries around the world, you will, of course, pay more tax according to the income that you have. So build income that does not rely on you working for it. This is where most fathers get stuck, right? And the focus here is to focus on multiple streams of income. And one stream, for example, that I utilize myself is real estate, properties, assets, rentals of a specific type for a specific group of people in specific locations and rented out in a specific way so they generate much higher cash flows than the traditional rentals that most people know of. And that's a really good place to start, at least thinking about going down that route, because you're then going to start building multiple income streams. For example, if there's a property portfolio or a real estate portfolio of 10 assets, you then have 10 sources of income, right? If it's 20, 30, 50, 100, 200, 300, whatever number there is in the portfolio, you're going to have each of those as a own source of income. And like controlling properties, for example, you don't require a boss or a job to start controlling assets or to start generating income from properties that you don't even own, right? You don't need them. You can just go and start doing that yourself. And the beauty about this is it can be done even from a laptop, right? I have done it myself. I still do it. And that freedom, it's possible. You don't need to do the whole hurdle yourself, okay? That's something of the past. You know, the old belief that when you're going to go into real estate, you need to do it all yourself. And you probably know somebody who decided to buy a property and then a piece of real estate and start doing the work himself for themselves, and it's just like no go. There are much better ways of doing that, right? And you can do these things from the comfort of a laptop. Now, step number 4, use your money to buy time and freedom. Okay, the belief system that I was conditioned to have from childhood was this: you utilize your time to save money. And again, there was another false belief to create wealth, which I learned over the years, because that does not happen. That does not work. So the poor mindset, or the limiting belief mindset, is this: you spend time to save money. Now, to build wealth and freedom is the opposite to that, right? You need to use money to buy time and freedom and flexibility, right? Don't just save to save. That's why most people are conditioned. Invest in systems and tools that will give you more knowledge and freedom, or the awareness that I'm referring here to, whether it's mentally or financially or whatever, the awareness, so you can get access to some knowledge or pieces of information that you can invest money to buy your time back. Because with your time back, you can create. With your time back, you can utilize your creative faculties. You can create, you can come up with ideas. You can go and leverage with other people. You can do a business joint venture with somebody else. You can spend your time effectively connecting with the right people to grow your businesses and scale that way, right? Instead of trying to invest time into something to save money. That's a reverse psychology here. That's reverse. I'm saying this because I've been there. I experienced this firsthand myself, right? So you want to use money to buy time back, okay? And remember, your day has got 24 hours just like mine. And if you get more than 24 hours, please send me a message anywhere. I will go and buy some more as well. Okay, I'm sure you're gonna want some more like I do. Now, step number 5, perhaps not the most important here, but one of the most important. Think equity and large profits, not wage. Okay? The difference. A wage is something that will pay your bills. Okay? The wage will pay your bills, and it's post-tax money. So you work hard for it, you earn a certain amount, deductions, you left with whatever's there, and then you try to save out of that post-tax money to then do something with it. Okay? So start thinking equity and large profits, not just profits. Some real estate in the UK, the US, and Europe, you get a few hundred of profits a month. That's not enough. You want to look at thousands every month, because that's lump sums, it's large amounts. So you can scale, you can leverage on that. So think equity and large profits, not wage. Okay, your wage will pay your bills. Profits and equity will build wealth and freedom. Okay? That's the difference between staying stuck and moving forward for good. So if you follow these steps, you will start to see things from a different angle. You're going to start to see things from an angle where perhaps your parents didn't teach you because they didn't know. Like my parents, my father is gone now, God bless him, many years ago, but he was a really hard-working guy. And he was a very hard-working guy, but he did not know any better than working for somebody else. He was very loyal, hardworking, and everything else, but we still had some financial limitations in the house, right? Because of that loyalty, but his level of awareness was not there about how to go and create sources of income, because his belief was that to create some source of income, you needed money. Do you know that false belief that you probably know or have heard? To make money, you need money? No, you don't. I'm an example of that. You don't. You need to have ideas, and you need to have a system and a proven methodology or framework to follow so you avoid losing money. But you don't need money to make money. You need ideas and be creative to attract money. Okay? Money is actually very shy, but if you call, it comes. It might sound a bit woo-woo for some. If you're watching this video here, if you're not into some personal development or the creative process around this universe, you might think, what is Leo talking about? But I'm certain of this because I'm an example of it. Money is shy, but if you call, it comes. Okay? Poverty is ruthless. It's just there. It's going to go like a disease, grab everything and go, because it's just how poverty is. And a lot of people around this world still have this poverty mindset. I know a lot of people that have got no reason to be concerned about money, and they still live in fear, because they live in fear of not having enough. Because of what? Because of their upbringing, because of their belief system, because of their fears, their past experiences, and they have not been exposed or made aware, if you like, of a new way of thinking. And that's what I'm sharing with you here today. That's what I'm sharing through these videos, through the podcast, the Daddy Boss podcast. It's a new way of thinking. It's a level of awareness that makes you realize that there's another way of thinking which leads to different kinds of results. And all of them is about money. The other thing I want to leave you with here, perhaps we come to a close of this video, is this. The results you have in your bank account today, it's nothing else than a reflection of your way of thinking about money, your association with money. And if you have a few things, a few assets, but you're still working hard on the grind of working for a boss and stressing out and not having time for family, not having time for yourself. You know, some people say, I don't go to the gym because I don't have time for it. Well, if you don't have time for you, what are you going to have time for? Right? If you keep putting everything else first and you last, okay? But even if you have some assets there, but life is still not the way you want, has nothing to do with the economy, has nothing to do with the boss, has nothing to do with your spouse or the weather or the cousin or the bird, has to do with the way you think, okay? Our life is a direct proportion, a direct reflection of our way of thinking. If the bank account is the way it is nothing to do with anything else other than the way we think about money. It's our relationship with money. Yeah, if the health is not there, has nothing to do with the work, the spouse, kids, whatever. It has to do with our way of thinking about our own health. If the relationships are not as good as we want it to be, there's nobody to blame. We can't blame John, Mary, or Harry because our relationships are bad. It has to do with how we think about those relationships, how we think about the relationship standards that we allow in our lives. This is literally a reflection of everything that goes here. The environment we live in, your home, your car that you drive, how you feel about yourselves, how your kids feel about yourself, the environment in the home, in the household, in the workspace or whatever. It's a reflection of how you see yourself, what you think. Now, through these videos, through the podcast, what is the Daddy Boss or something else, the events I do even, it's always about helping people to raise the level of awareness about money, health, wealth, and relationships, okay? And remember this, to become financially free, you don't need to be a millionaire. This is really important. To become financially free, you don't need to be a millionaire to be able to be financially free. You just need to have a system or a process that you can follow, and that process will do what we shared here on step 3. Build income that does not rely on your exchange of time for it. Does that make sense? I hope it does, and I hope you got some value from this video today. But remember, step number 1, get clear on what you really want. Step number 2, track where it's going, especially if it's not bringing money back. Step number 3, build income that does not rely on you exchanging your time for it. So literally, does not rely on you working for it. Multiple sources of income, passive income. It can be done via laptop. Number 4, use your money to buy time and freedom. Stop exchanging money for time. So you stop exchanging, time for money. Instead of investing your time to save money, you start investing your money to save time, because you as a human being, you can go and create, you can connect with people. And step number 5, perhaps the most important, I said before, maybe not the most important, but I think it is the most important. Think equity, think large profits, not just profits, large profits. Small profits will keep you what? Small, right? And not just wage. The wage will pay your bills, equity will build wealth, large profits will build cash flow to give you leverage. These are these 5 steps which I trust and hope you're going to utilize and at least start thinking about them in a different way. God bless you.